Well, I want to ask you some, well, not really ask, I want to share some insights and get your thoughts on it too.
Yeah,
I'm getting married in 6 days.
that's impressive.
Uh, and you also being a married fellow, I'm curious to hear about your experience. And I wanted to share like just some lessons that I've gotten, some personal insights, and see where it goes.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, like, I know weddings are largely regarded as these rites of passage, right? Like, like puberty or, um,
Right, right.
an ayahuasca journey, right? Like there's all these different forms of rites of passage. And it's interesting. Like I didn't really look at it that way, or it didn't feel that way initially going into it. I know it's a big deal, and I want it. Like obviously I wanted to, or else I wouldn't have proposed. Like I love my fiance. I want to be with her the rest of my life. And first of all, let me say, like, one of my first lessons is how lucky of a man I am, like that I have. I mean, she's been incredible. Like I feel like an underachiever compared to all the things she's done. Like she's been incredible with like the planning and the organizing, and just I think the bride in general has just so much more that goes into it. Like dudes have it easy. We kind of just like have our bachelor party, go have fun, get our tuxes, and hang out while they get their hair and makeup done and tell us where to be, right? Like,
Yeah. I'd
so
say traditionally speaking, that's more often the case than not. I wouldn't
yeah,
say 100% of the time, but yeah, I'm totally tracking with that.
yeah. So like I know it's a big day, and like I kind of was always like, yeah, I know it's gonna be like officially we'll be like, legally we'll be married, like with the state of Colorado, we'll have these papers filed, but like it never felt different because we've been together for so long. Like
Right.
it feels like we've already been married, and I think that there's a lot of truth to that. And also, it didn't really occur to me until I sat down and thought about all the things that I've been learning through this process, where I'm like, huh, it really is this like rite of passage, and this really transformation of psyche that's occurred. And so here's some of the things I want to share.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what's come up around that and kind of how
Yeah.
you're viewing this now.
And the other piece of it is like, I think a part of me thought like, oh, it's going to be this one day, it's this one moment, and then it's boom, it's this huge transformation, versus it being happening over the course of the past like year since I proposed. So that was kind of a shift for me in thinking about it. So more on like kind of the surface level, there's certainly been some like awarenesses. This isn't even like epiphanies, just like remembering again the importance of really planning. Like I'll say, taking big projects, chunking them down, like it at times was so overwhelming to like think about all the things. But like when I really just sat down, okay, here's this phase, here's that phase, here's all the things. Okay, 6 months out, 3 months out. So
Mm-hmm.
like it's amazing how much that helps in like actually getting these big things done. But one of the
Totally.
things that was interesting was like how, where I noticed on things that I procrastinate about. And it's like, why do I know I have to do it.
Mm,
Why am I putting it off? Like, why am I not being proactive? Why am I not practicing proactivation versus procrastination? And really what I realized, like for most of the things, either it's I don't really want to do it, but I know
sure.
but like you have to do it. And so I think for a lot of the things, it was like more of a fear out of making the wrong decision, or that the thing that needed to be done would fail somehow, or it would suck, or
Mm.
um,
Give me an example of one or two of those items or those
yeah,
tasks.
like one was like gifts for my for my
Groomsmen.
yeah, for my
Yeah.
groomsmen. I was like, oh, I could do that. It was like, so for one of them I found it, and I'm not going to give it away in case somebody listens to it, but I was like, oh, this is really awesome. Like they'll really love this. And the other thing, I was like, I'm not really sure. Like, well, maybe they don't like it, and are they really gonna like? Are they gonna use it, get some good value out of it? Like, all these thoughts started going in my mind of like,
Yeah.
really, it was external, and this is going to actually lead to a bigger one here in a little bit around like taking into consideration other people's thoughts around these things, and like, well,
Uh-huh.
what if it sucks, what if it just falls flat, what if it's a disappointment, what if it's, you know, like all these like away pattern me like things that the outcome that I don't want happens, right? Like,
Hmm.
and so okay, I don't have to make the decision yet. So I just put it off just another day. It's fine. Oh shit. I only have 2 weeks. It's got to be delivered. Like, I have to pull the trigger. Like,
Right.
it's just like, it's like things like, that's just one example, but like, it's so frustrating thinking about it. Like, and the irony of like, by me procrastinating, I'm like manifesting a potential failure because
Totally.
now I'm in rush to make a decision. And it's like, versus if I were to just really prep and take my time or take pro action around it, how much better that would feel.
Yeah. What's interesting about that scenario specifically, now you've chosen these, how many groomsmen do you have?
6.
These are the six most important males in your life,
Right, right,
right?
right.
And now you are tasked with, on this momentous occasion, to present these six males with something that you've put meaning on as meaningful and profound to them, right? And if you pick something lame, you've not only done these males a disservice, but like they're gonna look at you as like, man, why did I
Yeah,
stand behind this guy while he got married? He
yeah,
got me
I
this
guess he doesn't
keychain,
really, I
like,
guess he doesn't care about me
yeah,
that much. I guess our
yeah,
relationship's lame. Yeah.
right, right. So I mean, there's a lot
There's a
of
lot more
gravity,
weight to it for
right?
sure, like
Exactly. You put a lot
subconsciously.
more on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there, like, again, that ties to a lot of things, like, you know, why we procrastinate even on things that we say mean so much to us, because like, yeah, they hold a lot of weight, and even if we're not totally conscious of it, like I've just noticed that's where tendency to for like these procrastination strategies, because really it's just a strategy, like I'm just
Yeah.
trying to delay or prevent or not have happen this potential catastrophe or shitty thing, or, you know, like something that I don't want.
Right.
But in reality, it's like, again, it's a that's a manifestation for it, versus, and here's the other like kind of realization I had around all, like, just everything involved in this is like in envisioning, having the vision of the picture that I want, like the how I want the day to go, and the song I want to walk out to, and what we want to look like, and the dancing, and my, you know, like every detail, like, versus what I think can really predominantly happen, you know, especially for myself. I notice this when I get in these anxiety patterns, is like I'm seeing all the potential shit that could go wrong.
Hmm.
Oh shit, what if what if the shuttle bus doesn't go, you know, what if they don't get there on time, or what if there's traffic, or what if they're, you know, like
Right.
what if the caterer doesn't have the correct amount of, you know, like all these things that it's just like, again, I'm creating a picture in my mind of disaster, and it's certainly not helping create the outcome I want.
No. And what's crazy is like, so you look at this, right? Like we talked about these gifts.
Yeah.
In the end, it's pretty meaningless, right? Like
Right. Right, right.
most people don't remember the, groomsman gift they got. Like it's not that big of a deal. But you've painted this picture of like, my bros are gonna disown me because, I,
Yeah.
I didn't, give them something cool. If you look at the whole wedding as a, what does that symbolize?
Yeah.
A lot of times for people, what a wedding symbolizes is if this goes right, then not only are people going to think we have a strong relationship, but it's going to lead to a really strong marriage. What if we have a really shit wedding that is a complete disaster, that totally means our marriage is going to be shit and it's going to be a disaster and I'm going to be divorced in 3 months.
Yeah.
Right? Like none of that is true. Although if you're putting all of that meaning, or we're putting all, it's subconscious, right? It's not like top level where you're like, well, crap, if the band doesn't show up, then that means the wedding's ruined and I'm not going to have a good marriage. That's just like 4 layers down
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
back of your head thinking like, well, if I can't get this right, or I'm not,
Right.
able to do this, everything else
Well,
is going to suffer.
yeah. And this, I mean, all the statistics are out there, and I was just reading it. I wasn't even aware of this until I saw it the other day. Like the fact that it was some study that was done that the more money that's spent and the fewer people that attend, the higher the divorce rate, and the less money. And like they looked at couples that spent like under $10,000 but had more people on average attend their wedding were the most successful marriages. And so it's a
Interesting.
really weird dichotomy, like interesting phenomenon that happens there. So but like these statistics, these things are in our, even if it's the collective consciousness, right? Of like,
Totally.
so it's just, yeah, it's weird like how my mind, I think, this is pretty common, our minds go to, well, fuck, what if this like what if this screws up, what if this fails, what, like it's this obsession with trying to prevent failures from happening.
Right. Which has you focus on all the ways to fail. Right.
Yeah.
And
Versus like
that's where all your energy goes.
yeah, versus I know when I spend time, when I like really sit down and I'm talking with Amy and we're like thinking about, we're envisioning together, and it's like all the happy visions that we want, like the things that we want to do with the night, and like that feels good, that just feels like, and like we're just priming ourselves. And I think it's a manifestation for how we want things to happen, versus putting all of this energy towards the opposite. So again, like that's nothing really new to me, but it was a different experience, because I, like tell clients the same thing all the time. Focus on what you want, not what you don't want.
Right.
And then, but to like experience it for myself with this big life moment, it's been more eye-opening for me, and how the practicality behind it.
It, it's funny, 90% of the conversations we have, whether it's us or clients or friends, it's not big, right? Like it's day to day stuff. It's, I'm dealing with this person at work, or it's like, it's things that aren't that big of a deal. And that's one of the things with ceremony, or the things with these milestones, is whether they're, I mean, it's always the importance you place on it, right? It's always the meaning you put to it.
Yeah.
There's people I know who've been married 6 times, right? Like by 4, 5, and 6, like the meaning they're placing on the marriage is, in terms of the ceremony of the marriage, or in terms of the signing of the papers, way lower expectations, way lower, like, oh, it's just something I do.
Yeah.
So all of your emotions are turned down as well,
Uh-huh.
versus you've never been married before. This is the first time you're doing this, right?
Yeah.
Like your parents are still together, right? Well, crap, that's a lot of pressure that's put on me to make this work, right?
Yeah.
It's
And
this, the
so are
family
and so
board.
are Amy's parents.
Oh, double pressure, right?
But asterisk, my father and my mom have both been divorced before, or before their marriage.
Oh,
So
okay. Oh, there you go. So, which
ooh,
also might
ah,
put some other
whew.
little spin of
Yeah.
side pressure of like, well, crap, maybe that'll happen to me too. And Amy's
Yeah.
just the first one of many,
Yeah.
or of the second. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, it's just what we put in our minds, right?
Yeah.
We don't face, like, we're not running from saber-toothed tigers every day, right? Like that's not a thing that we encounter. And even, in those eras and stuff, like that wasn't an everyday thing too, right?
Mhm.
That was like, oh, this is an emergency. Everything heightens. We got to put everything into play. Our ego comes in and keeps us the fight or flight response. In this, there's so much meaning around it that we've created this as one of those things. And because we don't practice it every day, we just talk conceptually about it every day.
Yeah.
Now you're in the arena, right? Now
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
are in
Yeah.
like
I'm
you're
experiencing it for real versus just talking about it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you were like every day you sit there and you point field. This is how you could do this. Hey, if the lion comes here, this is where you need to stand. You know, the towards
Right.
versus away. Like you're teaching all these things in a classroom to people. You know,
Yeah.
in conceptual manner, and then you're like, oh, I haven't been in the arena in a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you're sitting here, you pick up your axe and shield, and you're like, oh, it's wait, what were those lessons that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this is the exact thing I tell people all the time not to do, but it's heightened for you, and now you're actually
Right.
going through it, and to go through it in a, I'm going to say in a traumatic experience, and
Yeah.
all I mean by
Yeah.
traumatic is heightened sense of emotion.
It's intensity. It's an
It's intensity.
Yeah.
What's awesome is now you have a dojo, if you will, or the Coliseum, whatever metaphor we're using in this moment,
Yeah.
the battleground, to intensify all of those awesome concepts you've been teaching everyone else throughout this whole time. You
Right.
haven't had a chance to intensify it. You've had a chance to repeat it and get lots of reps under
Exactly.
your belt.
Exactly.
But you know, we know from like a neurological perspective, you add intensity and emotion to that. Now you're neurologically hardwiring and creating those like really thick myelin sheaths for these pathways to, you know, transmit the signal
Right.
through this intensity. Like this is what a cool opportunity to do that with.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back to the, the whole, my realization around this as a rite of passage. It's like all these things that I've been prepping and helping clients with is now like I'm going to war, right? I'm the soldier that's been in
Proverbial,
training
yeah.
for years. I'm going to war. It's being battle tested so that now coming out of the other side, it's a whole nother consciousness level around it. So
Yeah.
100%.
I've heard it explained as like the difference between knowing and gnosis. Like
Mhm.
gnosis, I think is a Greek term of like, you know, through experience. It's like,
Yeah.
it's a knowing of this versus like, oh yeah, I know that this is a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
exciting, man.
it is. It really it's helped bring, like, as much as I complain to, and this will lead to my next point, as much as I complain sometimes around like, God, I'm just like, I'm ready for this day. And like, cause I want to have a magical fun day. Like I'm looking forward to that. And like all of the stuff that's gone into it, the painful planning days and the like decision making and like and just all the other stuff that goes into it that makes it or takes away from some of the fun loving feelings, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, what I had this realization too of like I realized at times I was being kind of shitty to Amy, where she would like come to me and say, hey, so we've got this, we could do this or we could do that, what do you, and I'm like, oh my God, like, and another
Right.
decision. And what I realized was like, why am I having this intense reaction to making a decision around, like, she's doing all this incredible work and I'm being a piece of shit by giving this shitty attitude of like, oh, here we go again, like another decision, I have to make another decision.
Right.
And really it's around, again, back to this, like, if I'm the one to make this decision and it's the wrong choice.
Amy did all this work and you fucked it up with this one decision. I can't believe you went with the buttercream frosting. God.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You went with
crazy.
buttercream versus the velvet chocolate. What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah. God, that's
what an
so
idiot.
1995, man. It's like my parents' wedding had that.
Yeah. And again, it's like, it's so crazy how quick the subconscious mind is to protect. And like, it's like, oh God, you're gonna make me. I'm like getting irritated at her to like
Right.
put it back on so that I don't, so I can avoid having potentially making this wrong choice or having this failure.
Yeah,
Like it's
totally.
like wow, like how quickly it occurred, right in the moment.
Dude, that is me like every day. Like one of the things I suffer from, it's not indecision. I mean, indecision's a whole nother story. But yeah, like, hey, where do you want to eat for dinner tonight? Like, I'm like, we go out to dinner like maybe one time a month. Like, if I pick the wrong place, it's gonna be 30 days before, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
someone else can come and save the day. Like,
right.
uh,
Uh,
it's yeah, and like you said, it actually puts more pressure. Like, my wife just wanted me to make a decision. She just wanted me to, like, she's like, I just don't want to have to make the decision.
yeah.
And yeah,
And if you get Chinese food and it sucks, we could just order pizza and correct the decision. We could
right.
like fix it later on down. So it's like, man, like it's just it's so irritating, like not seeing this play out. And it's funny you mentioned that. I actually had that experience last night. And it was like, I'm like, what do I want to eat? I don't know what I fucking want to eat. And what if she doesn't want to eat that? And like, it's like this tormented
It's
way,
right.
just like, you know what? I have a taste with tacos. So fuck it. We're going to go with,
Yeah.
we're going to go with Chipotle.
Dude, I'll give you a, 'cause I have kids, right? I have 3 kids. And so yesterday was this like, I was given this decision that I pawned off on my kids. Um, yesterday, Ashley had some pictures done, so she got like hair and makeup done and all this stuff for some professional photos. And she came home and she's like, I'm looking all nice. I never do this, so like I'd love to go out to dinner. I was like, cool, I'm down for going out to dinner. She's like, but like there's these UK soccer coaches that are here in town giving a clinic tonight, and it's free. It's in our neighborhood. It's at the field that the kids play at, and she's like, Everest. He'd said he really wanted to go, but if we go to that, then we can't do dinner. I was like, oh, okay, because it's school night and everything. She's got to work early. She's like, what should we do? I'm like, let's leave it on Everest. Like, I'll let him make the decision. And he gets in the car after picking him up from school, and he's like, oh, yeah, I really want to go to soccer. I was like, okay, cool. That's fine. We don't have to go out to dinner. We'll go to soccer. But he, like, after talking about it, like, he didn't even really want to go to soccer. He just didn't want to go to dinner. Like, it was this, like, even him at 7 years old has these like,
Yeah.
is calculating what he wants to do more than he doesn't want to do. And
Yeah.
and for me, sitting out in the hot sun watching him play another day of soccer, because we already had 2 days of soccer this week and there's games on the weekend, and it was just one of those things where I was like, I wasn't doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is like we ended up just having a family movie night, and we stayed home. We didn't go out to dinner. We didn't go to soccer. We had a family movie night, and it ended up being amazing. But like the torment that
Yeah.
went on, and me trying to like, when you have kids too, it adds another layer of this. Like, well, if he doesn't go to this soccer practice, like, is he going to hate soccer forever? Is he going to miss out on this like amazing coaching opportunity from these?
Is he gonna ride? Is he gonna ride the pine the rest of the season? Like,
It's just like one of those like I don't want to fuck up my kids, right? Like just
yeah,
like you don't want to fuck up your marriage, and
yeah,
like in doing so, you end up like just creating more obstacles, and
more turmoil. It's such a
yeah,
tormented, agonizing mental place to be.
yeah, and it's all just a mindset. It's all
Yeah,
just like I
it's all
chose to think that.
self-inflicted.
I put all this meaning on what does this mean if my kid doesn't do this, and if I make the decision because I'm lazy and I don't want to sit in the hot sun, or we go to he misses his opportunity because we go out to dinner because my wife is dressed nicely, like it's just, it's so ridiculous when you say it out loud.
Yeah,
Like it's so fucking ridiculous when you say it out loud.
it is. It is. But that's why it helps in processing, talking through it, because you see just how silly it really is, and you're like, what? Why? What's the point? Why? So and here's the so all these things kind of like lead to the deeper thing here, lead to one thing that I've been wrestling with for essentially my entire life when I really look at it. Um, but it's like, and again, in this wedding planning process, it's like this intense focus or care on what other people think. Like again, like what if what if it's disappointing? What if they think it sucks? What if they don't like the buttercream versus the velvety chocolate cream? Like all of these things like leading back to what if I am a disappointment? What if I fail? What if what if what if I make them angry? What if they think
Right.
I'm stupid? What like this external outside in focus of what other people think. And here's the interesting thing. Like I know for me and the work that I'm in, I care intensely. I care
Mhm.
so like that's the half full side of the glass. Like I
Right.
care so much about people and I want the best for them. And when it's too much, when it's caring too much about, and especially when as it relates to me, like what are they gonna think? It's so crippling. It's so just like again agonizing, tormenting. Like why do I do this?
It's, I mean, this can be a really long
Yes,
conversation.
yes,
Ultimately, we have our ego, right? Ego is part of our psyche that keeps us safe, that keeps us, away from danger, mainly, right? A little bit towards pleasure, but mostly just away from danger, right? Things that might be bad. The
yeah,
ego creates these identities, right? So like there's so many, you can talk about this from so many angles, right? Like
yes,
some people could be like, oh, well, we were hunter gatherers and we're part of tribes. So, the ego is designed to get you not kicked out of the tribe. And if you throw a shitty party, you're going to get kicked out of the tribe, right? Like
yeah,
no
yeah,
one, like, oh man, Brian throws the most terrible parties. In fact, at the biggest moment of his life, when he had the one opportunity to throw the largest party he could throw, right? Like the
yeah,
most money you'll ever probably spend on a party,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
He blew it. So we can't really trust him. So we're going to kick him out, right? So
yeah,
you can look at it from that tribal aspect. But
yeah,
if that doesn't really resonate with you, if you just
yeah.
think of the fact that the ego builds identities,
Mm-hmm,
you've crafted this identity over your lifespan, right?
mm-hmm,
A large chunk of it was created in your early life, family of origin style stuff. But this ego has these beliefs. And if one of your beliefs is that you're a fun guy that people like to be around, right? And you know how to have a good time and show people a good time and like you're a spirit that people want to be around,
uh-huh,
right? And then that's your identity, right? Or that's part of your identity. It's one characteristic of it. All of these decisions and all these things that are presented in front of you have the ability to put a knife in that, right? Like
right,
that
right,
part of you of like, man, you are a terrible person. You're not fun. You're boring. And so,
right,
yeah, I mean, it gets to a point like that's keeping you safe. And now it's like that's how it's manifesting out is giving you anxiety about all of this stuff.
right. It's trying to prevent all those things that can poke holes into the image that I want, to have, or the perception I want to have of others, and avoid any potential discomfort or pain that I might feel if I disappoint or anger or upset or cause someone else pain,
Right.
mental pain of some sort. Could be
Right.
my mom's disappointment, could be Amy's parents, anyone.
Mhm.
It's a very sophisticated, complex protective mechanism just to keep me safe, keep me comfortable, keep
Yeah.
me protected.
Yeah. And it's not making you happy.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And again, like if that's the imagery that's going through the mind on a constant basis of, or I could disappoint them that way, or I could upset them that way, right? You know, if that's clouding your mental space and your visualization, like it's ironically enhancing the probability that those things will happen, or that those things will play out, not only from a
Totally.
metaphysical, manifestation law of attraction, but like in the mind body connection. Like if I'm making, and Amy comes to me with a decision and I'm in that space, headspace or mindset of don't like, now my decision making process is totally changed versus what do I want? What's the vision I do want?
Right. You're familiar with object fixation?
No, I don't know.
I think you're familiar. You're familiar with the concept, but
Yeah.
anyway, the term for it. So I first learned it learning to ride motorcycles, and then learned it again when I was learning how to skydive and like canopy control.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea of object fixation is wherever you look, the motorcycle will go, or the canopy will go.
Right, right.
So like I remember trying to make these tight turns in the motorcycle safety course, and like I'm trying not to hit this curb, right? And they're like, look where you want the bike to go, not at what you're trying to avoid. And it's insane. Like I'd be in the exact same spot. I'd turn the handlebars and lean in the exact same direction, same speed, and I'd be looking at the curb and I'd fucking run into the curb every time.
Yeah.
And the only thing I changed was turning my head to look where I wanted to go, and I would miss the curb every time.
Yeah.
It was, I remember like with the instructor, I'm like, can I try this again? Like, I want to try this again. Like, why is this happening? And then same thing in skydiving, learning how to do canopy control. And actually the one time I ever had a canopy accident was actually when I was learning how to speed fly, which is a lot bigger canopy. It's controlled differently. This large open field is our landing area. There's this one row of trees, and I get fixated on the trees, and I'm like staring at the trees, and I'm afraid to turn the canopy too hard because in these speed wings, they're a lot bigger than a parachute canopy. They like you pull a little bit and they can flip and do all these crazy things. And so like, I'm just staring at the trees, slowly trying to turn. And what do you know happens? I go blazing right through the trees, get all smashed up. And, I fall from like 15 feet and have a pretty horrific accident.
Wow.
But you're fixated on those things. That's where all your energy goes. That's where your body moves. That's where like everything goes.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm thinking like, I don't know if it really necessarily matters where it came from, this program. I think it's a pretty common one. Right. We all have it at some level, whether maybe I did something when I was 5 years old that, my mother, I embarrassed my mother in the, grocery store or something like that, like,
yeah. Totally.
Doesn't really matter. I could see how it'd be reinforced over time. Like the fact that I moved 3 times during my, prepubescent, like early, growth development years, and I had to make sure I fit in and don't look, like,
right.
So like, it's interesting how these software patterns evolve or get installed. But, what I've realized, and especially around the wedding, is like, to your point earlier, like all these people are here because they love me. Like I could not pretty much see,
trying to find a little cop out.
I could say all the wrong things, do all the wrong things, like even intentionally try to piss someone off. They're going to love me no matter what.
Right. They're going to think you're wasted or something, but
it's all right. Yeah. Like
he's just nervous.
There's an unconditional love. There's a love no matter what. And like, that's, the final thing here is like, and just seeing this, like all these people that are showing, like they're showing up for us and just like taking the time to just like really feel that love, that appreciation versus all this fucking shit that I, occupy my thoughts with and torment myself with. Like, at the end of the day, these people love me. And you know what? As long as my heart's in the right place, as long as my intention is right, like, yeah, I'll screw up from time to time. I can resolve it. I can make it right. But like, and this is the deeper truth, really, it comes down to loving me, knowing that I'm not a disappointment. I'm doing my best with the tools that I've got. I've got a big heart. Like, I'm a great guy. This obsession with trying to like,
Yeah. There, there still is a little something in there though. So like, even as you talk about that from that
yeah,
perspective, it's like, even if I fuck up, right? Like, which points to the like,
sure, put some energy
it
towards
puts some energy towards it, right? Like, I don't know if you can fully get rid of that expectation. I don't know if you can fully get rid of, that piece of it, but there are tools and stuff you can use to bypass that. One, like you said, focus on the love and appreciation that these people are in your life and that they're spending a lot of money to come to celebrate with you,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
they're
And
taking
they've been
time.
generous with their time, with their gifts, with their love.
Yeah,
Like,
they could be anywhere else at that moment and they choose to be with you guys. So I mean, I love that aspect of it.
yeah,
I do find for me that helps, and I get disconnected from that very easily because my ego created this perfectionist identity
mm,
that is like so strong that I found some more, because I would say what you're saying with that is more of a deeper level fix, but we're not used to deeper level fixes quite like that. We're more of like the surface level fix kind of people, like
uh-huh,
use a little bit more of a surface tool, something to like quell the ego versus to focus on, something like, if you're love and appreciation is hard for a lot of people. Even if they, oh, I have a gratitude practice. It's like, yeah, I get it. But also like
yeah,
feeling it on a deep level
yeah,
is, can be difficult. One of the go-tos that I like is, I was trying to look it up earlier. I was trying to be discreet about looking it up earlier, but it's a Stoic principle, and it's all about like worst case scenarios. I don't, maybe it's called Mercy Cardis, I think, but basically the concept is you play out the very worst case scenario or
uh-huh,
three worst case scenarios
yeah,
that can happen, right? Like you pick the buttercream frosting, everyone's disappointed.
yeah,
Amy's day's ruined and she decides to divorce you. Your family doesn't, disowns you because of, the choices that you made. Like you go through and you
yeah,
try to like, it's funny because it's the opposite of energizing the positive future,
yeah,
but I do find it to be very therapeutic in certain areas where I can't get past it, where I'm so stuck in the worst case, where I'm
yeah.
so stuck in the doom and gloom that I'm like, yeah, I get I have a lot of people who love me, but this is in front of me right now and I
Sure,
can't,
yeah. It's
it's
kind
just,
of like the exposure to your deepest fears kind of approach,
yeah,
like
exactly. It's that exposure.
desensitizing you to that intensity of this doom vision that is stuck in your mind,
Dude,
right?
it is so helpful. And I've found, there's a few moments in my life that were really, tough crossroads for me that I was able to play out those scenarios. And I was like, this would be the worst. Like people hate me for this, like maybe I have to set up a new identity. It's
Yeah,
like I have to walk away from this. And man, once I get complete with that, when I'm like, okay, if that were to happen, are you going to be okay with that? Like,
yeah,
I do get to a place where I'm like, yeah, would it suck? Absolutely. But I can see a path forward from there.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I could see, starting over from the bottom and being alone and like building up what I had already. Like
Right. It's not as bad as what you imagine it to be, is kind of what you're leading
well,
to as well, right?
yes. And for me, it's actually like, or what I like, the power that I get from it is living with that possibility as a reality and being okay if that's the reality.
Uh-huh.
Like, not that
Yeah, it makes sense.
it's going to be less than this, but if this were to happen,
Or how it could lead to a solution or resolution, resolve, right?
it can. And I guess for me, it's the getting complete with the worst case scenario. It's
Uh-huh.
the like, if that were to be my reality, am I okay with that?
Yeah.
And finally being okay with it, and then it just disappears.
You
That
know,
fear drops completely.
yeah, yeah, I'd be okay if and I was gonna put something into the I'm gonna do it anyway because it's funny. Yeah, I'd be all right if everyone gets violent diarrhea because of our catering option. That'd be kind of funny actually.
Yeah, it would be a hilarious story. In fact, we'd be sitting here discussing this in a couple weeks.
Yeah, exactly. No, I like that, and I think using those two approaches in tandem are very effective, right? It's like it's pairing the
Right.
towards in a way, you know, being able to play that out, getting to a place of wholeness or completeness or resolve, if in fact those things do happen, but also making sure that your focus is in the towards pattern. That, like,
Right.
for me, it was like another example, taking it outside of the wedding metaphor or application, is like public speaking. Like, early on when I had to get in front of a crowd and like, oh crap, what if I had slipped? What if I, what if I'm tongue tied? What if I don't know what I'm saying? Like, what if what I'm saying is just they don't get it and it's just they think I'm a complete idiot? Like, again, all those same kind of thoughts, the what ifs, the what if I disappoint here? What if I don't, blah, 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 blah. The towards pattern became, I'm here in service. Like, I'm here to provide that. There might be just one person in that crowd this is going to be transformation for, and that's all. This, like, I'm here in service. So, like, to be in my own head about, and don't say that, or oh, make sure you do it. Just like, no, just like open your heart and just love these people, be of service, and then that's really it. And what's interesting about why this is such an interesting like metaphor is, like, again, being such of service, I think, can lead you back to, well, what if I'm not serving at the highest level? Fear. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it kind of ebbs and flows, or that fear evolves over time, or it gets more sophisticated. It's like it never really goes away. It just shows up differently in different moments of time.
Yeah.
So where it might evolve after this rite of passage for me, I'll wrestle it in another context at some point.
Totally. I mean, it's just levels, right? Like, there was a time where you were really afraid to cross the street, right? And like,
Yeah.
now that's like not a thing, right? Like, but you're still afraid in that same way of, zip lining across a canyon, right?
Right. Right.
It's that same innate fear of like dying for dying is really what it comes down to,
Yeah.
right? And whether it's a physical body death or it's, people call it an ego death, but I think it's more of an identity death, right?
Like a psychic death, like a
Yeah.
psychology death. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a death of the person you thought you were,
Uh-huh.
right? Like this identity that you've carried with you for
Yeah.
so long,
Yeah.
like that can feel equally bad. And
Yeah.
like this wedding scenario isn't a physical death, right? Like, sure, you want to get worst case scenario, you could say like, errant thunderstorm happens and
Yeah.
you end up dying at this wedding, but like that's you have zero fear around that. Your fear is around looking bad, right? So it's
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
death a physical death fear. It's a emotional death fear, an identity death fear. And
Yeah.
that's going to show up in different ways, just on different levels as life goes on.
Yeah. Yep. What a wonderful, fun journey.
There's one more thing that I
Yeah.
play along with that fear of, like, the fear of the worst case scenario. You know, is obviously everything we talk about is always focusing on the positive, focusing on where to go. This is more of an exercise that has a box on it, right? Like, you play it through, and usually by the time you're done playing that scenario and seeing if you can sit well with it, like, it usually disappears. And like,
Uh-huh.
you feel a huge sigh of relief. You're like, yeah, I'd be okay with that. The other one, that if I don't get to that place and I'm still like worried about it, the like it's my like last ditch before I go back to like positive, 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 is I think of people who've done horrible things and are still, you know, living in the world and being
Right.
successful.
Like a
Like,
Tiger Woods or like a
like who's a Rihanna's ex-boyfriend,
Chris Brown.
Chris Brown, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, his music's still playing all the time, and like, he's, I don't know how he's doing emotionally as a human being, but
Yeah.
like, he still has fans. They play his music still. Like, he's still like relevant
Yeah.
after doing
At
all these
least I
terrible
don't
things.
abuse my wife. That's a
It's the Chris Brown tool that we use.
yeah. There you go.
But I just think, I'm like, wow, and what I'm facing is nowhere near that,
Right.
right? It's like, and so to think that these people can go through something way worse and come out the other side, right? At least from a societal standpoint, man, this wedding decision is not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, true that. Well, I appreciate you, you know, letting me process through that. It's actually very cathartic to I've journaled on it and I've been thinking about it a lot. To actually vocalize it and get your perspective is immensely helpful. So
And to bring it back to the coaching thing you said at the beginning of this, like, you helped me understand a lot of this at a lot deeper level. And one of
weird.
the things, yeah, it's crazy. It, one of the things I wasn't able to reconcile, and I feel, I can't 100% articulate it in this moment, but what you would help me do, like, as I was explaining the whole worst case scenario thing, is like, yeah, that playing out the worst case scenario goes against everything I tell people in terms of like, focus on the positive. This is where you want to go. But
Yeah.
understanding that it's an exercise and a tool, not that you're creating all this vibration around it and you're focusing on it. It's just a moment in time, like journaling. This is
Yeah.
a fear I have. Here's the worst case of this fear that I have. Am I okay with it? And it's like, no, I can totally be okay with that. Yeah. Oh, that's actually kind of cool. I can get a chance to start a new life completely all over again. And,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I get a chance to prove myself again. I like proving myself. Like,
Right. Right.
it's like,
Right. Yeah.
oh, I can recreate. I can, have a whole different fashion sense. And
Yeah.
you start going, it always leads back towards that positive, but getting complete first with that. So yeah, just
Makes sense.
you helped me understand how those things go together and how they play together versus like, wait, I thought you always said
Yeah.
energizing the positive is the thing you should be doing all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Pairing the two,
Yeah.
it's good to have away patterns aren't bad. Sometimes you have to not stick the knife in the electrical socket. But here's what we do with
Right.
knives, right?
Right.
Um, the last piece too that came to mind was like, the fact that all these people already love me unconditionally, and taking it outside again of the wedding, like this persistent thing that pops up. And I think this manifests in different ways for people around caring or fearing what other people think about them, but like this like fear of being a disappointment, and like it's like at the end of the day, again, if I have these people that love me no matter what I do, and the fact that like when we publish our content, for instance, like some people are going to hear it and they're going to think we're fucking whack jobs. Like, okay, that's fine. But there's going to be even more people that are like fall in love with this, that enter that and join that group of people that I want in my circle, the people that, resonate with this and believe it and love me no matter what. And like, that's the group that, and if I say something that can challenge someone, they don't quite agree with me, like that's awesome too. Like, and I know that even if someone judges me for something that I said, it's not really about me. Like, it's their model of the world, and it's more so says something about them that they're wrestling with. Or it's kind of like how
Right.
people are mirrors kind of philosophy, like the thing that you don't like about that person is really you don't like about yourself, kind of thing. So like,
Right.
again, there, like you said, there's so many different like things that tie to this, or angles you can, and tools that you can incorporate into this. But long story short, this going through this journey and process has helped me wrap my head around the path forward from this old program that has run for a very long time, that has been very
Yeah, and
plaguing.
it's still gonna, yeah, like you still have it. It's still a pathway that can pop up and will pop up, like you said, in different scenarios. It just maybe at a higher level. It's maybe
Yeah.
not on this level of issue anymore.
Yeah. Well, good stuff, man. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
always.
Anything else you want to chat about?
One more thing I'd like to say
Yeah.
is just around in the beginning, you talked a little bit about how I have to do all of this bad stuff to get to the good, exciting day, right? And like that's the day is the day. The day is the exciting
Yeah.
part. It's the happy time. One thing that really has helped me, and I forget almost every time I start going through a process, is that the process is the fun part. The journey is the
Yeah.
fun part.
Yeah.
The becoming, the unfolding of how this wedding is being planned is the fun part.
Right.
Like you're co-creating with your wife and loved ones this special day. So it's like recreating the like I'm going camping this weekend, and my wife told me like, hey, I'd love to, have everything ready before, when we get home from work so we can just head right down and go camp out on the beach, which is awesome. It's only a 30-minute drive, which
Super
is amazing.
jealous.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. Camping with some other families. We're doing kind of like a surf camp. So everyone's bringing
Nice.
surfboards and paddle boards, and the
Yeah.
waves are like perfect for, just having like a nice chill time. But when I first started getting that, like, I got that anxiety over, like, oh, we haven't been camping since we moved, and where's all the camp stuff? And I know I've been organizing it, and do we have propane, and do we have the camp kitchen, and should we bring too much stuff? And like, how are we gonna fit the paddle boards? Do I could bring both paddle boards and my surfboard? Like, and I started getting this anxiety of like, but crap, I have a conversation with Brian, and I have to run payroll, and I have to do all these other, tasks for like the programming next week for the gym, and I don't have enough time to get this stuff done. And like, why is this put all on me? And even just through this conversation, I was like, oh, I'm about to tell Brian, like, hey, enjoy the process. And I'm sitting here. And what's funny is like, you've done this enough to now it's like just me having this quick realization as I'm talking to you about it. I'm like, no, man, I'm excited to get all our camping gear together. I love
Right.
that. I love
Right.
Tetrising the car to like make everything fit perfectly. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love all this stuff. I love to show how proficient I am into like when my kids come home and they see the car packed and they're like, yeah, like they're super excited about it. I'm
Yeah.
excited to use the new surfboard rack I got for Ashley's car that I can, like
Yeah.
this is actually like I'm stoked now, even though
And the
right before
excitement
this
of
call I
doing
wasn't.
something and the excitement of doing something you really enjoy with your family will make you want to just get payroll and plan for next week even done more efficiently and quickly.
Yeah, it's it's less of a, it's not a burden. It's not like, I got to do all this stuff. It's like, oh yeah, cool. I get to do all this stuff,
Yeah.
and not in that whole Pollyannic, like, you get to do it. You don't have to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I get that from a standpoint, but you really have to feel that in order for that to be true, right? Like, you don't have to take your kids to soccer practice. You get to take your kids. It's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But you really have to find that emotion that attaches. Like, no, seeing my kid play soccer is amazing. I love that. I love that I have these kids that are healthy and love to move, and we have these opportunities that they can move.
Yeah.
You know?
No,
Yeah.
it's a great point. And I know I was exaggerating a lot of points back there, and I hope I don't sound too much like a curmudgeon. And that this was all these things leading up have been unenjoyable. No, there's things I've truly had such a great time, like getting to try out caterers and even just like finding our venue. And last weekend, like Amy and I just had, like, Friday night, just went out, like sat out on a balcony and a rooftop bar, had some, and like just like pondered our vows and was just sharing our, like, that.
That's awesome.
There's been amazing pieces to this. It's more so more of the stuff I don't really want to, like the minutia of it, that, yeah. So
I get it.
but it's a great reminder, like, yeah, even the stuff that isn't as enjoyable, it is part of the journey. It provides contrast, like it's the peaks and valleys, it's the right, like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk for hours on this, but I feel
Yeah.
pretty good.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Again, super helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, for me too. Conversations always give me more clarity. 99% of the time, I have more clarity coming out of a conversation than when I went in. So thank you for that.
Cool. All right, man. Well, yeah, we'll talk in a couple weeks. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah. Congrats, man. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
All right.